there's a flap on your chest. You open it up, and inside there's two little guys. It's us. We're doing a podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the long-awaited In the Den episode on Scavengers Reign, because this is a podcast that we do. This is Craftsdwarf here with Hot Boy Spicy. Hello, Spicy.
Yeah, we do this sometimes, guys. We're here. We're here.
Yay! So yeah, I guess status update before we get into the actual podcast is Hot Boy Spicy was going through some stuff, and wasn't in a mood to enjoy watching me. Or actually, I mean, maybe you can explain that part. Come to think of it.
I was jobless reincarnation for a while. By a while, I mean like essentially over a year. I did some contract work here and there, made a little bit of money, but it was insubstantial comparatively to the money that I was blowing through. And I was in like a really bad spot. So I couldn't even I would watch something and then my mind would just be elsewhere. I couldn't really get immersed or anything. And I didn't want to bring that sort of, I didn't want to bring that to the podcast, because if I'm not homing in on a story and I'm not, obviously if I'm not in it, I'm not going to pick up on things. I'm not going to have anything interesting to say. So it just wouldn't be worth it for multiple reasons, right? First and foremost, we want to enjoy what we consume. That's all the fun. And especially if I have to record for a podcast, I'm definitely not gonna do that. So until I found a job, I was telling Crafts, hey, I'm gonna take a pause on it. Well, I've since found a pretty good job. I'm pretty excited. Going to be starting here soon. But we are going to, after this, we're going to take another, it's going to be shorter, I promise. Take a shorter break just for me to get sort of comfortable, ingrained in my position at the new place I'm going to be working. And then once I'm comfortable enough to start to add to my schedule, basically, we're going to be resuming, and then hopefully that's going to stay, consistent from there on. No more breaks.
Yes. We don't know what we're going to be going through next time, because I kind of want to wait until we're getting to the point where we're going to be getting back to it. Just my thought process being what we're excited to do now might not be what we're excited to do in a month or two when Spicy's ready to resume the podcast. So we'll just wait and see. If you want to keep following along with us or keep tabs, I'll probably edit the description and or add a comment when we do find out what we're going to be going through. But if you want to be, you can also ask or just if you're on my private Discord, my patron Discord server, or Spicy's server, or you leave a comment or something. And if you really want to know when we decide, we can let you know, or you could just vibe and see a new podcast episode when we put it up. So yeah, because we don't know what we're going to go through next either at this point. But anyway, we watched Scavengers Reign, a single season Netflix original animated sci-fi show that was unfortunate. I mostly heard about it because it was canceled, and people were like, wow, this is a good show. Why did it get canceled? And it's I don't know, didn't win the attention economy battle, I guess, even though I agree that it's good. But alas. What did you think?
Yeah, was it simply because it just didn't grab attention?
I don't know. I didn't look into it. I just remember that's just how I found out about it, and it still has not. I've not heard anything. Well, even when finishing it, I was like, oh yeah, this kind of just ends off on a point where it's that's an ending, and then there was a stinger, and it's okay, they had thoughts in mind for future seasons that they just didn't get. So, I don't know the details. I just know I heard about it because it wasn't renewed for a new season, and people liked it. So that's all I know about it. Sorry, I should have done research. But I also, hopefully my discussion isn't impacted, because I watched 9 episodes of the show in May, and then Spicer was like, yeah, I can't do this. And I was like, okay. And I watched the last 3 episodes within the last week, recording in October. So, oops. It should be okay. I had no problem getting back into the show and enjoying it for the last 3 episodes. But yeah, we'll see. So anyway, what were your thoughts? Because I liked it, but how did you think? Or what did you think?
Overall consensus, it was really, really good. Not just from a art and animation standpoint, but I think from a story standpoint, like, and when I say story, I mean, it was, how would I characterize it? The sort of narrative was, I almost want to say it was like a soft narrative, because, like, the goal is pretty concrete, but it doesn't really change drastically throughout the course of the 12 episodes. It's just like, we need to get to the Demeter. Everyone's whole objective is Demeter, Demeter, Demeter. But that, I guess you could say that's the only like hard narrative goal. But like, I guess the soft narrative, but even more, it's soft, but it's more pervasive, I feel like, in defining my experience with Scavengers Reign, is the idea of the biology of this planet sort of overtaking everything about these characters, even so far as the technology they bring with them. Levi is a great example of that. So I guess what I took out of this is, like, I guess in the title Scavengers Reign is like, it's their reign insofar as them kind of coming closer to the biology of the planet, and then like having some sort of, I guess, the ending of the last episode to me kind of tells me, like, oh, this is the Scavengers Reign. Is like, they're not scavenging parts, they're like scavenging the biology, and they're actually learning to work with it. Levi is kind of like the progenitor of this idea, given like especially his revival. Is that like, we're not scavenging in a traditional sense, like man-made parts. We're scavenging pieces of this planet to do something better and bigger, almost like the planet's biology itself, when honed, is like superior to anything they could have brought with them to survive on this planet. I think that's just a really cool concept, because every episode kind of gives us this idea, right, that like biology is fucking insane. Like, these natural phenomenon, like one episode, Sam gets stuck by this creature in the arm, and then that creature like copies like his I don't know, either DNA or structure, and then it just makes another him.
like a weird fucked up like plant him, but it's still like very clear like borrowing from his DNA, and it's like, dude, honestly, like, that's, I mean, I definitely had a lot of fun with the story and the general way things unfold, but I think definitely one of the more standout things is just how just fucked up and weird and alien this world is. Like, I think one of the parts that sits in my brain is when like Ursula and Sam were wandering, and Ursula like broke off and she saw this like weird plant thing, and like a little alien guy just like aged, pressed a button, continued to age, and then curled up and then died. And it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, it was just born to press this button to continue the, like, all these, they just have these obviously probably one of the more important ways of propagation was the sort of like the parasite that was trying to spread through the little black beans that Sam had on his heart. Like, well, God, when the flap opened up his chest, he's just got a little parasite on his beating heart. It's like, ah, and so you just have all these like weird creatures and plants and animals and just living and existing in their own ways. And how this and yeah, humans becoming a part of this ecology is very much, I think, a big part of like, yeah, you mentioned it with Levi. I ended up in the climax, I was realizing how, I guess, the way Kaiman lived on the planet versus how the others did, where because he kind of like became subservient to the gray psychic alien, and I was like, I guess I was framing it as a kind of like parasitic relationship versus Levi becoming one with the mold, because that was interesting because first the mold was just becoming part of Levi, and then he was destroyed, and the mold kind of rebuilt him, and he seemed to have like, he still remembered Ozzy, but he just seemed to he was different after being reconstructed, and it was kind of like it basically became a new being of both machine and mold, and it was, like I mentioned, a symbiosis, and that's kind of how the humans ended up having to live. Like I especially noted it with like the way Ursula and Sam were like in the first episodes, because you had Ozzy, who was more focused on the technology that she'd brought with, like she ended up with her from the Demeter, and then you had Sam and Ursula who had sort of like mastered the nature and were using like these like balloons and like they were using the technology they were using was just the biology of the world that they had realized its use and were appropriating basically. And I don't know, I just think that there was just a lot of interesting dynamics just with how like the characters were using the nature and how the nature was existing with itself. Like, oh yeah, Oz even had that lesson when she was on her motorcycle and in that big herd of creatures, and like she had to learn how to like roll with the waves of the nature instead of trying to resist it, basically. And that's kind of how it ends up with the humans living on this world, and like they don't have any plants or animals that they had from or human culture. They just have what's on this planet, and they have to live within that nature, basically. So I don't know, it's really neat.
Yeah, and I guess it adds credence to the idea that is so pervasive in our world, the Earth. Like, no matter what we do, no matter the strides we make in technology, we will always be ultimately like subservient to nature and nature's. Just think about global warming. Global warming is a direct consequence of us trying to be so headstrong with our technology and be the top of the food chain. Like, now we're seeing repercussions of going so hard in that. We're tunneling so much into that, and it's a shame. I don't like to talk about politics too much, in my content I do, especially on YouTube. But it is sad to see, especially when I'm watching a show like this, that the current administration, at least in the United States, is so hell bent on kind of going away from green energy. When you see like a show like this, and you see like how important the ecology is of a planet and stuff, and just like the idea that we're kind of fucking up the planet quite a bit, and it's gonna fuck us in return, right? It's not like we just get to fuck up the planet and not reap consequences. It's not how it works. Yeah. So it's cool to see that. I just lost my train of thought. I had like a final point, and I completely lost it. Is what happens when you're
talking about how we exist with nature, or don't, rather, basically.
That was going to essentially be my point. But I had like a specific mention of like a scene in the show. Hopefully, I'll remember this for later, and we can come back to it. But move on for now. I really enjoyed. I think a big thing with this production is just the amount. Like, it's one thing to have unique creatures and like a unique biomes, but it's another thing to like in 12 episodes show so many that you're like, it's as if I just experienced like, it's like how One Piece, every island is like has its unique creatures, but like I saw like potentially like 10 One Piece arcs in 12 episodes of like different creatures and different like the talent, the skill, the just the sheer usage of time, really. Everything, all the skill sets that went into just being able to show off so much and so little, I think is so commendable. I like, dude, there's so many different little creatures that are super unique, and it's crazy. I mean, even in that one sequence near the end, where Cayman is like falling into the psychic creature, we see like the planet's evolutionary process, and there's even more creatures that we had. Creatures that we had seen, some creatures that we hadn't even seen. Like it's just crazy the level of commitment and detail that they went into with formatting this. It's like, this planet to me is so solidified in my mind as like a thing, like a real thing. Again, and I think to be able to do that in just a mere 12 episodes is
and never even sitting down and be like, this is what this planet's called, and they never explain anything. They just show it. They just like wordlessly, like the characters just like that's just how everything's presented. This is just how it is, right? Like, because nature doesn't explain itself; it just is, right? So and that's how all the characters kind of like live with that, like even if it just doesn't make sense to their because there's just so many like weird things that are propagating in their own ways. But God, Oh yeah, and there was one I left a note because I was just like, that's really cool. Of just because yeah, there's not only are there just so many like weird, interesting designs, but there's also just like I mentioned the one with Ursula already, but one I kept in my note from episode 4 was there were aliens that cooked food with solar power. Like they used the sun to cook food so that they could eat it, and it's like that's just like just endless amount of like cool, weird, interesting ideas that just here you go. This is you can think about this now. And then we just have to be like, yeah, that was interesting. So, yeah, very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Speaking of, I wish I had more time to think about. Again, I just finished this yesterday. Oh no, I don't think I said that when we started recording, but I did finish this yesterday.
I did too.
I wish I had more to, and maybe through the course of this conversation, I will, I will be able to articulate how exactly I feel about Cayman and then the psychic creature, because their dynamic is definitely super interesting, but I don't think I have anything super insightful to say on it quite yet. I probably need a little bit more time to think about it. I mean, admittedly, probably because I wasn't as infatuated with that as like, you know, something like Levi and Ozzy's adventure, or even Ursula and Sam's really. Although again, that dynamic was interesting. The Cayman's dynamic with the creature and it giving him visions and stuff. But maybe you have some more to say on it than I will.
I mean, I just think about it now. I was just considering again, speaking on like the relationship with nature, where like basically through Cayman's influence and like humans being introduced to this world, like for a lot of the cases, they're just like existing in it and just trying to survive while it goes about doing its thing. Like with Sam, for example, being there was first the one with the clone that I'm remembering how it works. Where I think we see just a scene of how it works, where it's just like it. Clones something and that becomes a parasite, and that parasite goes over to its herd or whatever, and then it basically explodes and kills all of them and becomes a new breeding ground for the one that will clone it. And then of course there's the one that ends up on his heart. And I was just thinking about how like because in those cases there it's sort of like they're using the nature, but they're also sort of like, you know, fighting, like trying to survive against the nature, so to speak. Where with Cayman, he sort of disrupts the regular order because like the gray psychic alien becomes larger and more dangerous than any of its other kind that we see, because he's able to help this one weak small one become stronger, and he himself also being kind of like a weaker small person in the ship who then you know, basically brought it down due to his sort of selfishness, and which also kind of becomes a thread I was just thinking about with Chris and the Scavengers who come in, where there's this sort of, especially at the end, there's the Chris and Barry, who Barry like wants to help other people. He wants to live a more, you know, symbiotic relationship where Chris is purely looking out for herself to the point that she ends up like basically leaving the planet alone. It's like, and you know, how does that go for them? Barry's like living and he's like smiling, laughing in the last scene, and Chris is fucking like about to die, begging for water, you know, before she just happens to be rescued. So there's like, which you can, maybe that's also a kind of like microcosm thing you could look at, where like Chris kind of like by trying to stand alone, like that doesn't really, you know, help her, where obviously the humans work with each other and then work with the planet as well. And Kaiman's kind of like, because yeah, especially I think his selfishness was sort of exemplified with Fiona, where it's like, here's this person that he loves that he just like left to die on the ship, and then we see her corpse later, right? So I guess that sort of factors into the very like, because I guess the dynamics between the character. Or,
yeah,
go ahead.
That makes a lot of sense, and I think that what you just said is definitely the most obvious takeaway from Cayman's stuff, and I think it is kind of interesting that he is kind of a inverse of Levi, where Levi is this autonomous thing, but then literally becomes more connected with the world, and by like in a literal sense, right? Where like inside Levi, there are aspects of the world that they're living, and then Cayman is the opposite, right? Like he's
Hmm.
like enters the psychic creature as sort of like an infant, in like an infantile state where he's like regressing by being in a creature, and Levi is I guess progressing
Yes.
by having that part of that ecology inside him. I think is an interesting parallel of the two. Or yeah, but
Oh yeah, no, because even the way you framed that, I was even just thinking about how like we with Kaiman, like he was when he was inside the creature, he kept like seeing visions of his past. So he's literally living in his past, right? Where Levi is becoming something new, and there's like, and obviously like it's building, like Levi's building things and growing things, like he's thinking of the future, right? So there's that contrast as well, right? So yeah, because and of course that contrast being really important because that's where like that's like the whole, if anything, the whole show's likely built around that like last conflict, right, where they clash and Levi surpasses the alien, and so you have that sort of like ideological conflict of like the way Levi lives and is versus the way Kaiman and the alien were. So yeah.
yeah, no, that's a really interesting takeaway too, because yeah, in a sense, Cayman is living within the confines of his mistake, whereas Levi
Yes.
takes this mistake that that these humans kind of inflicted upon him, and is completely utilizing that mistake as not a mistake but a boon, right? Levi is
Hmm.
probably the only person until the end. Well, Levi, again, like I said, Levi is like the progenitor of all this stuff. Like Levi is the one who first and foremost, learns to live with this circumstance, live with
Yes.
this mistake, and truly accept it. No one else has accepted it. Everyone is looking at the past, the Demeter, the Demeter, the Demeter, when in actuality, it may not even be there. Um,
Hmm.
you know, um, by be there, I mean like operational. People might be dead. Um, no one is even considering that alternative, right? And it's funny that
Hmm.
only Chris is the one to pose it, but of course it's in a completely kind of warped context where it's like, um, no one is alive. Not like, well, they could be dead, they could be alive. Maybe we should prepare for that. Like, what are you going to do if everyone's dead? No, it's just like, no, they're dead. Just act like they're dead. But again, like there is like I guess I would say just like a balance between the kind of the two perspectives of like, um, you know, uh, that I think Levi is slowly but surely portraying to Ozzy, and then of course they all kind of accept at the end whenever their last bastion of
Hmm.
salvation is literally flies away from them, right? But that is really cool. Yeah, just by talking about it, I'm thinking more and more of the dynamic between Levi and Cayman and how cool that is. But which I know we're kind of going everywhere, and we'll go back to other scenes, but we're not going in chronological order. But how did you? What was your takeaway of Levi blasting the fuck out of the creature, and then that creature kind of shedding its huge exterior and then becoming small again with Cayman, being sort of freed?
That's yeah, that's a pretty good question because like I definitely now like thinking about it, like yeah, I mean in the moment it was like okay, that that was a resolution to that, because and thinking about it retroactively, it's like that doesn't necessarily make sense with the biology of those creatures that we have come to understand. So yeah, I guess I don't get it. So uh I mean, if you have a takeaway, I'll take it. But I mean, it was in my head. I was mostly focused on the like Levi, like the reasons in which Levi won the conflict, like ideologically, the words. But yeah, the actual because yeah, especially when the series is so focused on the mechanics, so those not being clear in that, not mechanics, but you know how I mean, like the way the mechanisms in which the biology works. So in that instance, it's like this. I would think that I was, if anything, like Cayman would have been left behind after the creature was killed, maybe. But instead, the creature was indeed alive and skidded away. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have any super unique takeaway from that. I mean, to me, it's just, it's really just a battle. It's not really, to me, a battle between Levi and the creature. It's more so a battle between Levi
Yeah.
and Cayman. Because Levi, I would say, is like a representation of the planet in this scene,
Mhm.
and is like, yeah, like don't hide away from your mistake. This is like what the world has to offer, because he sees that. I'd like to think that that what we saw is what Cayman saw in that scene, where it's like, yeah, don't hide away from it. This is reality, and you can evolve just as the world has, and just as I have. So essentially, stop this like fictitious progression, or I guess I shouldn't say like the progression is not his. The progression is the creatures, but even the creatures, I guess, in a sense, was sort of I guess manufactured, because the way I saw those scenes where Cayman was continuously bringing the carcasses is that like this creature is not supposed to be feasting on this. It's supposed to be like content with being sort of small but powerful, like just because its size. And when you even see in the scenes, like the creature's not ever doing anything substantially different. Sometimes it's using its body weight, but its main power, its main way to survive is like through its like telepathy, right? Like and it doesn't. The telepathy never seems to be more impressive the bigger it gets. So did it need to be this big to especially to be in its respective sector of the food chain? Probably not. Like it getting profusely big doesn't seem to be really any benefit to the creature. So Cayman's not benefiting the creature. The creature especially is not benefiting Cayman, right? It's keeping him in this sort of cyclical remembrance of the past and his relationship with Fiona that can't exist anymore because Fiona's dead, one. And two, again, he's reliving that mistake over and over again, and being paralyzed by it. So in a sense, their kind of symbiosis is not, they're not helping each other, whereas Levi, his symbiosis has only helped him. So the fact that like again in this scene he's kind of representing that perfect symbiosis, and that like that future mindset, that mindset of like true progression. I think that's probably what it's saying. Again, it's more relevant, the dynamic between Levi and Cayman than the creature itself, but
No, yeah, I think that makes, because earlier I was framing it as like symbiosis versus parasitism, but I think I like the way you frame it with where there's this, Levi being this sort of ideal symbiosis where both sides are strengthened. Where with Cayman and the creature is like they didn't really help each other. Like if any, all Cayman really like, I guess how they helped each other, quote unquote, is like Cayman was allowed to like was protected in some way, I guess, because maybe he would have just died otherwise, and then the creature got to have this feeling of superiority and strength because he was being bullied, and then it killed its kind, right? So, but it wasn't a way that was like necessarily sustainable, and it obviously didn't work out in the end. So yeah,
because I mean, again, like Cayman, in a sense, he's safe. He's safer potentially physically, but at the same time, it's like, was he safer then, or is he safer now with his people? Right, like where they're like where they are, trying to evolve with the planet. Like I would say, arguably, he's safer now. So by staying in there, if he would to have stayed in there, he would have been in profuse danger, because what happens if because at the end we see like he wants to escape now, he wants to leave. Like, is a creature going to let him? Probably not. Right? Yeah. Like it could literally just kill him if he tries to which it tried to do with other people already that were rebelling against it. So I think it's a cool it's a cool discussion. Definitely my favorite dynamic in this 12 episode short series. Levi, again, I think I probably made it already clear without saying it. Levi is definitely my favorite character in this show, for sure. I don't know if you have like a definitive favorite, but Levi's definitely.
I don't know that I do, but I definitely really do appreciate. I like, in general, I kind of like the robots working through humanity angle in other things, or also just characters with more stunted emotions also like gaining those emotions. Like that's just the thing I tend to enjoy in general. So Levi having this sort of existential like becoming a being thing, I definitely like that a lot. I don't know if I have a standout character, especially because my watch through of the show was a bit fragmented. But I definitely I probably enjoyed like Cayman and Ozzy's / Levi's respective stories the most. Not that Ursula and Sam were good as well, but I just didn't get. I feel like with them it was mostly interesting for what they were encountering per se, rather than the two of them. Though the fact that they just had this like good, healthy relationship as basically like co-survivors. Like yeah, they're that's nice, but I definitely like, and then Ozzy eventually getting involved with the Scavengers, adding a whole nother layer with to the conflict, of course, was neat for sure.
Yeah,
But
hell yeah. I do like what you said about Sam and Ursula is not so much because this is the same experience for me. Not so much the characters themselves, but what they run into. Like there is that one sequence where they're trying to escape the storm, and they go in these creatures that have this.
The transparent.
And then they to protect their young, and they go in it. But then there's those like the water crab creatures that like invade. And then they have to like that scene is horrific where the it's like screams and they get paralyzed, their ears are bleeding, and then it's sucking up Sam's blood. Like Sam is consistently getting the short end of the stick in these encounters. It's actually crazy. Like he gets his shit rocked, he gets his blood sucked. Then he gets a clone made out of him. He gets sick because of that. Then even when he's getting a cure, it's not a cure. He's getting a parasite put in him that will just kill him. Like it's crazy. Like poor Sam, man. Poor Sam.
Dude, the fact that his last scene is literally him like reaching into the flap in his chest and ripping the parasite out and fucking crushing it, and before dying himself is like, Jesus fucking Christ, this poor man has suffered enough, but he. In a way, he was kind of protecting Ursula and allowing her to be, because like a sort of like not rather than a propagation of genetics, it was a propagation of just like humanity and like his paying for like giving a kindness to pay forward that she eventually worked towards like helping to free the crew and presumably being some form of a leader in their community. But obviously that if there were a season 2, I imagine it would have been dealing with like, okay, what is this human settlement like on this planet, and obviously like what the fuck is up with the gold mask religion guys in space who presumably would have come to the planet to, I don't know, investigate the Levi mold babies that were existing. And it's like, that's a whole thing. So yeah, but oh well, we'll unfortunately never get to see it, so it'll just be ideas, but interesting ideas nonetheless. Have an interesting show.
Yeah. Which is to mention that death scene. I was thinking about it just now, because my initial like guttural reaction when I saw Sam just rip it out is like, bro, like you couldn't have just gone a little bit further to the ship and like maybe done that, but like you wouldn't have died. But then I was just thinking about it, and I knew like I need to think about this scene more. And just now I thought like, okay, I'm thinking back to that scene, and like he is like, there's a little bug that is crawling on him, and he's like looking at it. That's like kind of his final moments, is like, kind of taking in the splendor of the planet in a sense. I was thinking about it. I was like, well, as you were talking, I guess in Sam's mind, he did not want to greet these people that they would potentially save from cryosleep as a sort of more this parasitic entity than man. Like if he was to come back to the Demeter, he wanted to come back as Sam, and potentially he maybe in his mind he wouldn't have. And that being said, because he sort of in his end is like resolves to just die before he causes anything potentially catastrophic. It's sort of, he kind of in a sense sort of bows down and submits to the planet. He pulls out the parasite, but then he's taken in the planet. He's looking at the bug. He's like, this is my last memory, but not only that, but like this is a part of me now, right? Like I am here, I die here. Not just as like, I don't know where Sam canonically comes from, if he does come from Earth, not as Sam the Earthling, but like as Sam, the whatever guy in this planet. Like I am.
Yeah, he chose. Yeah, well, because as you were talking about it, I was just thinking about how, because like I remember the old lady who we see who was stranded on this planet years ago and lost her partner, and she lived for way longer than Sam, and she did have the parasite as well, but when we last saw her, she was basically an extension of the parasite, right? So Sam, I think, is like, yeah, he could have, I guess he chose to guaranteed die as a human instead of becoming the parasite, basically, and then potentially hurting Ursula or any of the other humans, right? So yeah, he died as a human on the planet rather than lived to, like, died within the planet rather than died being subsumed by the planet, if that makes sense. Where, the difference, like, yeah, being able to just have that last peaceful experience instead of just losing himself and becoming, a monster, basically. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, completely agree. Let's see what. Again, the thing, the reason why I may have trouble about talking about anything and everything with this is because the most pervasive thing to me, and a big bulk of my enjoyment, was in just the artistry of the showcase of just this planet, just like every little bitty thing that every little concept. It's like they had a whole concept book, and instead of scrapping, like what I imagine what happens a lot of the times is like there will be concepts, but a lot of them will get shoved. They're like, we're just going to actually use everything. We'll find a way. Like, that's what it almost feels like. And that's not even to say they probably had so many concepts for the future that, had to, that might not ever see the light of day now, which sucks to see because there's so much creativity. Just, there's so many sequences where you see one little, like, big plant that they utilize in some specific, like, a good example is Ozzy near the end uses this creature to run up this big plant, and then like it makes this plant's mechanism go off, and then out comes this goop that she uses to, like, coat their feet so that they can stick up, like, just shit like that, like the one and done type. There's so many one and done like you won't ever see this again, but it's super fucking cool and, like, super creative. It's like every episode multiple times. It's like it will just keep you engaged. That alone kept me supremely engaged.
Absolutely. There's just it's just such an endless well of creativity. Like, I just imagine during the production they're just passing out notebooks and like, draw a bunch of little fucking weird guys, and then just taking as many ideas as they can and just throwing everything out to make this. The vibe of this world is definitely just, like you said, it's so well realized and fully formed that it's definitely, something to appreciate. And there's still for sure. And also just talking about it is making me think about how it's taken so long for American, like, Western animation to really get into, like, okay, here's a show for older adult audiences that isn't like a comedy sitcom. And I feel like it's only within the last decade that we're actually getting those. And just think about, like, how Scavengers Reign is like that. But also without an anime influence, it's just like a really solid, interesting show that doesn't, like, it kind of, I feel like, it has to be animated because I don't really see how you could like, at least it would be just a stupid budget, and feel like having that groundedness of real life would take, I don't know if that would take away from the alienness or not, but I just really appreciate the fact that this is just an animated show and it's just a really good and interesting one as well, without being, it's not condescending. If anything, I think the fact that it shows so much rather than explains anything directly, it just has a lot of respect for its audience, and I really like that. So yeah,
for sure. Completely agree. I mean, especially given that it really wouldn't make much sense if anything could really be explained, given that these people have only been on the planet for so long, and obviously they're not going to be able to put a name to everything quite yet. They're not going to know all the functionality with, like, I mean, science is like a very long and arduous process. It takes, like, many people researching the same kind of subject matter, or even the same creature or same plant, to get it down exactly how this thing functions. And a lot of the times we still don't know everything, right? Like, we still I mean, a good Earth example of this is we still don't know how bees can fly. We just don't know. We can't explain it. Like, from our understanding of the laws of aviation, bees literally should not be able to fly, but they do. So, that's just, like, we've been studying bees for how many years? It also just makes sense, I think, too, that everything is just, it's there because they're experiencing it too for the first time a lot of the times, and they're seeing it there as well.
Yeah,
everything's a new experience for us and them.
For sure. I think I'm about dry on things to say. Um,
Oh, really? Already?
yeah, I mean, I watched half the like or 3/4 the show fucking 5 months ago. What do you expect?
True, true. That was my
And it's also, I feel like it's also much shorter. Like it's 12 episodes, where I think the previous things we discussed have either been like big long form stories, or that we've at least one of us has had, or no, both of it. Like with Mushoku Tensei and Bleach, we both had prior experience with it in some capacity, and then with Evangelion, it's twice as long, and it's we also had prior experience with it as well. So this is something we're going through for the first time, but it's also much shorter. So I think us having a relatively shorter discussion is fair. Um,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's a really good point. There shouldn't be a, like a time. We got to get to a certain amount of time on these discussions, especially again, as you said, like it's really short. And, you seem to agree. The best thing for us in this story was just the artistry presented before us. And there's only so much we can say about that because there's just so many, again, there's so many little scenes of like little cool things, little cool creatures, little cool plants. I mean, even I'm thinking to, the one scene that keeps popping into my mind is the one where at the end where Cayman is he's doing something with the big plant apparently that he's been
oh, in the garden
the garden, I guess, that he's been
or farm or yeah.
yeah, but there's a little green guy that's like he's got like 3 legs and is like rolling out and he's like messing with, and I was like, oh, I really like that creature. I will say though, relevant because at the end we do see Levi has like presumably like offspring, like they're just little Levi's but fully biological.
Yeah.
And I thought was super interesting, like how Levi essentially, by becoming more natural in a sense, was able to, I guess, somehow, and now that I'm thinking about it, this was kind of probably the goal all along. Levi was always, we see in that scene, and this for you was way back. There's that scene where Ozzy and Levi are trying to hide from the storm, and then Levi's like, "Oh, I know a place," and then it's like this like fucking paradise refuge, and like
yeah.
Ozzy is like, "What the fuck is this, Levi?" And Levi's like, "Oh, like I kind of like helped build this, like this is like my little project that I've been doing." And she's like, "What the fuck?" If you really think about it, it's almost like, again, to me, it looked like a refuge and like a paradise. It's like almost like, oh, was Levi building toward creating a refuge for offspring? Like, was that the goal all along?
Oh,
It's just Levi. Yeah, Levi couldn't again, like Levi hadn't evolved enough to know exactly what he was doing, but subconsciously he knew, right? Because at the end, what does he have? Offspring in a safe refuge with these people that have now started being one with the planet, and they're more or less thriving, especially comparatively so. So it's a more perfect place to host offspring. So that was the goal all along. Maybe there's some lesson there. It's like no matter how much we fight it, no matter what we are still subject to nature, and we want to carry on our lineage. We want to live with nature, yada yada. And that's what true prosperousness. Maybe there's a little bit of a message there, maybe not, but I think it's kind of, I'm just thinking back to everything, kind of putting it putting meaning to it. And I will say, because you mentioned that like at the very end there's sort of like a note of like, oh, there could be something there, but at the same time, like I remember my thought when I watched it was like, I can see like how this is like a little bit of a cliffhanger, but to me also it's like to me it's also like a good sweet note to end on. Like a part of Levi is out there and like giving people new perspectives like he did for Ozzy. Because that's kind of what I got. Like it was reaching out as if it wanted to connect with these people on the ship, and maybe they would teach each other things. And then this Levi I guess not Levi, this Levi offspring will evolve differently than Levi does, but it will evolve in a sense. It will carry on Levi's lineage by simply the idea of evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Although I will say it does kind of, again, because the artistry of this, it does kind of suck we aren't going to get something, because that ship was really cool. Like there's that shot where there's like the skeleton holding a device that's smoking, and then also like a plant in the other hand, where it's like, but again, like that tells me too, like technology and biology combining. It reminded me of Levi too. Like on one side there's some technology, on the other side there's no.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about how like Levi might represent like an ideal to this cult, basically, a space cult or whatever. And that's true. Oh man, yeah, no, I can totally see it. Like, because I definitely feel like maybe in honestly in some way, not that the show season two. I don't know. I was just thinking about how the aim of season two might shift because I think season one, it obviously you did have these character dynamics and especially how they existed on the planet. I feel like with season two, you would have had like obviously more people, more characters because they freed everyone from the ship, and then you would have had this other faction coming in with the space cult. So I feel like the aim of the show would have become a bit different, basically, where the planet itself might have become in the background, and where the human conflict would have. And I definitely think the show still would have been good, but it would have been different. And because I was even just thinking about how like even though he's just spoiled the shit out of the show, like it's still just an audio only podcast. Like you can't really replace watching the show and seeing the world and seeing all these things interact with each other and just exist and be like, that like we can't spoil that for you. So it's still absolutely worth recommending, even if you listen to the whole podcast without watching the show. You should still find the show and watch it. It's good.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess as for me, there's not much else to say. Anything else I have to say, it would just be more of like, oh, that scene was like really cool, like to experience, right? Which, yeah, but there's not, most scenes are like that for me. So I'd just be like literally walking
just
people through.
Yeah, just the show is good. As we know.
So I guess that's my final thoughts too. Obviously, Levi, I've thought the most about Levi. Levi took the most impression on me, but that's not to discredit all the other characters. I think all the other characters worked very well with this story. I like how everyone also converges at the end on the Demeter, only for that to everyone converges on the part of the planet that is alien to the planet, only to stay on the planet at the end anyway.
Yeah.
So I think is pretty cool. And then even the one who doesn't, even the one who quote unquote escapes, dies, or not dies, but like kind of like the one who found herself to be above people, above that planet. Like, this isn't my problem. This isn't my problem. The planet essentially denied her of being able to demonstrate that it's not her problem, right? Because it's like, no, it is your problem now because it followed you. The planet, you cannot beat this planet, basically. I think it was really, really cool. So in a way, no one could, even the one who escaped it. The planet became a part of the ship, essentially, and we don't know exactly how, but it fucked her over. Maybe even took control of the ship, I guess. Maybe is what happened. We don't know exactly.
I was just really surprised that she was alive, just looking at the state of the ship, and it's like, oh yeah, she's dead. And it's like, wait, she's not dead? How? Okay.
And who knows? Those people that found her might not even be human, and might.
Who the fuck knows?
I mean, I shit you not. I did count their fingers because I was like, "Are these?" I want to
just gotta check, right?
Yeah, and then I was like, "Oh, they got 5 fingers. They're humanoid. They seem to be wearing masks. They're probably humans."
The skeleton looked human, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a sick show. It's unfortunate that's not going to get any more because legitimately, the studio do you know the studio's name that produced this?
I mean, I don't. It looked like. I mean, Titmouse usually does a lot of like Western animation. They also do Legend of Vox Machina, which is another show I was thinking about when I was thinking about like recent Western animation not being comedy and also just being really good. But I don't know the actual like. I didn't pay attention to the credits, so I don't really know the minds behind it. So, unfortunately, or what else they've worked on or are working on. So, yeah.
Okay, AI is telling me, but I don't necessarily trust Google AI. It's saying Green Street Pictures and Titmouse Inc. Interesting name, but I don't know if that's actually true. I'm trying to.
Well, Titmouse is they're definitely in the and like they're at the very if you watch all the way through past the credits, you see the Titmouse logo or the the bird. So
interesting name.
Indeed.
It just sucks that it's not going to be because it's legitimately like it's such a good work of art. It's just unfortunate that because I mean I know it was a Netflix show, right?
Yes.
It's unfortunate, man, because like dude, if this was like I swear to God, I feel like if this was just produced in like if this was an anime like on Crunchyroll, this would have gotten big. But I feel like the
Oh
fact that
yeah.
it's on Netflix and it's like a Western animation alone, like those two things, it didn't take off. But I swear to God, if this was an anime, put on Crunchyroll or
Yeah.
whatever, and like advertise on Crunchyroll, this would have taken off because it's really fucking. It's just so sad. But yeah,
Yeah, no, and you're right, and just anime is easier to market nowadays, just because people are really into it. But so it's sad that no, yeah, now you mentioned it, no, it is really sad that Western animation is honestly at least like, in regards to like variety of shows that out there, I feel like where it's in a pretty good spot. But yeah, this one didn't land, even though it deserved to for sure. So yeah,
yeah,
sad.
it is sad, especially given that like I'm trying to create something, and I know how the book industry is right now. Like it's not, it doesn't make me optimistic for my own stuff. Given that like I think this is really good, and it deserves a lot better, better attention. But that's not how that works. There's so much more that goes. Advertising is a big thing, and it's about the platform and what the platform is pushing, what the platform think is more worth to advertise and push, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like the people on Netflix, most of the people on Netflix are less likely to peruse animation and find something new on their own than they are just like regular live action shows. Whereas like on Crunchyroll, if you're perusing and finding something new yourself that looks interesting, reading synopsises, all of it is animation, right? So yeah, I think there's like multiple things that go into this, but it's unfortunate. Because I mean, I can't even think of like, like all the Netflix shows that get really popular. Like, you think of Stranger Things, you think of, Squid Game. All of them are like live action, right? The ones that like people just start watching and they're like, oh, it gets really big on social media. Apparently, so this is a stat that I recently saw. The biggest, the most watched animation, like pretty much every year, is always Naruto on Netflix, apparently, which is just a show that's been out for a long time, right? Like it's not anything new, right? People are just watching Naruto. Like that's what they're watching the most on Netflix in terms of animation. So, go figure. It's already a well-known.
It's also
name.
which is, I think it's I mean, I don't know what other long shows are on Netflix, but Naruto is also just like it and Dragon Ball have been historically very popular, so it's interesting that it still carries on. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, sad, but hey, anyway, not sad that it's popular, just sad that it's already popular, but people are still choosing to just watch that. But it is what it is. People watch what they want to watch. People watch what's accessible and what they know about. So it is what it is.
Yep.
I can't even get on my high horse, because the fact of the matter is, most of my consumption also is from hearing people that I know say, "Hey, this is really good." So there's, and admittedly I did this much more when I was younger. My favorite anime, for example, Monogatari, the Monogatari series, I actually watched solely on my own. I found out solely on my own. But it's those few experiences where I've actually done that, I think make the biggest impression on me. I should be better about that. But as I age, I've noticed that I'm just becoming less and less likely to just find stuff on my own. But I'm so glad, Crafts, you found out about this and recommended this, especially given that it's so underappreciated, and I got to experience it. And maybe even the creators will one day see this and be like, hey, these two guys, they really liked our stuff. And it was really good. It was really good. You guys should be proud of yourselves. Probably not ever going to watch this, but if you are, be proud of yourselves. This shit was good. A work of art in every department. I hope to. I'm going to, because I know there's two specific creators. I'm forgetting their names. I'll look at this. I'll look at them up after this episode, and I'm going to be looking out for maybe projects that they're even doing now or in the future for sure. Especially animation wise. But yeah, that's all I got to say. All
right. But yeah, I think that about covers it. Thank y'all for listening. I will find out what we do next time. Expect to see it maybe December, maybe actually probably more likely next year, even if we do decide to pick up In the Den in December, because it'll probably take us a while to go through whatever it is we're going to go through. So who knows? We have so many ideas. So God knows what it's going to be. So anyway, But yeah, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time, hopefully. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.